Hi, I'm Emily Olszewski. I'm a painter here in Akron, Ohio. I've been living here probably 6 years, I would say, and just kind of based in this place. Went to the University of Akron. Now I'm about to go to Kent State for grad school, so a local girl. The biggest thing I work with is oil paint, and then I work with black and white ink. For the oil paint, I've gotten to a point where I can just kind of sketch out what I want to create in oil paint, just like a very broad gestural sketch, and then I go from there. So I think I've gotten kind of comfortable with that fluidity of the medium. And then when I get tired of that fluidity, then I kind of go back to the drawing, which is more rigid and literal, and you know, this goes here, this goes here. So it's nice to kind of play with both of those, but I like how they're both very different from each other, and that's why I like to use them kind of commingling together throughout my body of work. In my paintings, it's a lot more based around color. You know, I really try to push the colors and make them as bright as possible. The subject matter is definitely a lot more, I would say, feminine and lush, rather than in my drawings. It's a little more fantasy, a lot more clothing in drawings as well. With painting, I just, you know, I wanted to pick the whole body because I think every part of it is beautiful, whereas with drawing, it's a little more just like getting it out. This exhibition was inspired by a lot of things. I think at this point in time, there's a lot going on in the world, so there's so many things to draw from. But the biggest theme I was looking at was how we can relate our times to the past, specifically the bubonic plague and the artwork that came out around that time, because that was a huge period of death, destruction, depression, which, you know, now is not as crazy as then, but just kind of trying to draw the parallels. I was working a lot with blues and golds in this show, which are very big color schemes that come up in that medieval work, and just kind of thinking about how we can learn from that time and also kind of commiserate with that time as well, and just realize that history is repeating itself. As I was finishing up the show, there are some pieces that are dealing more with themes of like abortion rights and the persecution of women in more ways than one, because that's just come up a lot lately, so I couldn't help but depict those issues. So it's really just, how are we going to get through this time? How are we going to build upon it and not make the same mistakes that we have? Because it does feel like we're kind of going backwards. Okay, so in this piece, you can really see where I was thinking about the medieval artwork and how the scale kind of differs from what we see today, what we're comfortable with today. I've always liked the playfulness in those illustrations, those really old illustrations where the building's small, but then the people are really big. And here you can see I made this archway, which was actually based off of, it was an unnamed, like unknown artist, unknown time period, but this illustration I found in a book of medieval art where they had an archway that was just, looked so small comparatively to the figures. So that's what I was trying to push here, to kind of bring it forward, but also make it look smaller for that hierarchical scale, to make them seem a little more important, a little more in the foreground. And then just like typical motifs like sun, moon, these two figures. You see a lot of figures in the sky in medieval work where they're like clouds or they're trumpets or what have you. So yeah, that's what I was thinking about here, and I definitely think that this is probably the most old looking work that I have in this collection. So another thing that I was thinking about just with the times that we're living in is the extreme opulence of the rich, the overly rich, and kind of thinking about how that would have been depicted in olden times. I have a lot of gold going on in this piece. I also put glitter. It was glitter for nail polish. It came in a kit, and I just like combined it with the resin I poured over and just had it there to kind of make it look really opulent and over the top and glitzy glamour. And that also ties in with this piece. Of course, it's a boar, which we can all think about what that might mean. And just seeing how he's, you know, holding the gems in his mouth, very greedy, got everything just strewn about him. Just kind of that greediness, hoarding all of your, you know, precious valuables is something that I think we're seeing a lot of, and a lot of very rich people don't want to let these resources be used by the common people. So something I was really interested in and very angry about. So for this piece, this is kind of where I started to think more about just a woman's role in this time. It's called Summer Nights Wide Awake, and as you can see, she's got like a pregnancy test right here. Cat is watching her, just kind of up in bed, just like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And I think that that is something that all people with uteruses are feeling right now, just feeling this uncertainty, feeling like, if this happens, what am I gonna do? Are people actually looking out for me? Does my country have my best interest at heart? So just wanted to show that contemplation in her face as she's dealing with this alone at night where no one can see what's going on. Just that secret life of people who have to deal with these issues is something that I think needs to be talked about a lot more as we're kind of exploring these things in day-to-day, and just how much it can affect your psyche and affect your day-to-day life and affect relationships with those you love. It's not something that should be taken lightly, and something that we should definitely be supporting those with uteruses about. So this piece is kind of a double-edged sword. I was thinking of, again, the persecution of women, the persecution of their freedoms, what have you, but I was also thinking about the concept of white woman tears, which is something that I've heard talked about, you know, when white women cry, everyone listens, everyone looks, everyone pays attention, everyone takes it seriously. So with this piece, I was kind of playing with that, and, you know, she's a blonde woman. It's titled Joan after Joan of Arc, who was burned at the stake. So that's kind of where I was going from that. And she's seen as like this hero. And, you know, if a white woman cries, if a white woman is murdered, abducted, raped, it's taken a lot more seriously. So I was kind of toying with that and seeing how people would react to it, because it is a very stereotypical blonde, white, female figure in this horrible situation. So that's what I was thinking about.